from Chicago. This is Pharma Forum web editor Nicole Raleigh, and I am on site stateside for ASCO 2025. And with me I have Claus Zieler, Chief Commercial and Medical Affairs Officer and member of the Executive Committee at Astellas Pharma. Pleasure to speak with you, Claus.
It's a big pleasure to be here.
So Astellas aims to contribute towards improving the health of people around the world through the provision of innovative and reliable pharmaceutical products, committed to achieving its vision of being, and I quote, on the forefront of healthcare change, turning innovative science into value for patients. And this value for patients is something very central to ASCO 2025. And Astellas's lifeline is continuous innovation. Indeed, Claus and I will be discussing that very thing today. And at ASCO 2025, Astellas is presenting 16 abstracts featuring new data across its approved cancer therapies for patients with prostate, urothelial, and gastric or gastroesophageal junction or GEJ cancers. This includes 2 oral presentations featuring long-term overall survival data for Xtandi.
Yes.
Or enzalutamide, and an exploratory analysis for Padcev or enfortumab vedotin. Firstly then, Claus, can you tell us more about Astellas's expanding oncology franchise and the customer engagement and clinical outcomes that matter to patients, and why 2025 is a pivotal year for Astellas in this respect?
Yes. Thank you, Nicole. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about our pipeline. We're very excited about the science that we are bringing forward in Astellas. We have 5 so-called proof of concept points that are coming up in the next 12 to 18 months. Most of them are in oncology, and they include diseases which are very hard to treat and very devastating, such as pancreatic cancer, where many trials in the past have failed. So we're excited about the pipeline that we are building through several modalities, aiming at the same disease type. But we're also excited because in the past 2 years, we have launched 4 new medical entities in different indications, again, mostly in oncology, not exclusively, but mostly in oncology. And 4 parallel launches across the world for a medium-sized company. As you can imagine, that is unedited. I don't know of other similar situations for other companies. So we're busy on the front of visiting doctors to explain the new science we're bringing to market. We're equally busy with the modalities coming out of research and into development. So it's a very exciting time for us at this point.
Exciting indeed, and a very good busy by the
In a very good busy way, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so thinking about that, how is Astellas evolving to meet the challenges of a rapidly evolving world to reach patients and HCPs via digital channels, including your own role now in shaping medical affairs at Astellas? I believe that's a relatively new role for you.
Yes, I assumed the medical affairs function as part of my responsibility on April 1st, so that's 2 months ago. Yeah, but to be fair, we've had a program which I invented and launched already 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, May 23, where we started working with medical affairs and the market access and the commercial parts of the organization to see how do we actually become a company that thinks more brand-centrically. So how do we think about the brand at the center of what we do, rather than a function at the center of how we act. Yeah, that process has converged the different functions and the thinking and the people in a very positive and productive way. There's a lot of excitement about that in the company, and I think the the fact that we now have medical affairs and market access and commercial under one roof, it's really just the last step in that journey that we started 2 years ago.
So this sort of notion of blending or coming together, springboarding off that, I additionally believe that Astellas and Everpoint Biosciences have entered into an exclusive license agreement for, give me 1 second, XNW27011, which is a novel investigational clinical stage antibody drug conjugate, or ADC, targeting CLDN 18.2. And that agreement is granting Astellas a worldwide exclusive license, and I will also note, excluding China's mainland, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan region, to develop and commercialize that clinical stage antibody drug conjugate. So all that information just
came out, yes, yeah.
given to you, Claus. Can you comment on this?
36 hours ago, right? Yeah. Yes, we're very excited about the new collaboration with EvoPoint. The asset in question, which is more easily described as 27011, I think it's shorter than the whole length of it, is a different mechanism of action, but targeting the same target that we already have experience with, because Vyloy, which is our gastric cancer treatment that we launched last year, targets Claudin 18.2. So we are experts, I would say, in this whole 18.2 as a development target. We know where it is, where it's expressed. We know how to target it. We know how to design clinical trials. So the EvoPoint asset, the 27011, is an additional mechanism of action in our portfolio of targeting that particular biomarker. Now, why is that important? Because that biomarker is expressed in gastric cancer, also in pancreatic cancer, and a number of other tumors. If we can crack and really develop a better treatment for pancreatic cancer, that would be a complete medical breakthrough. So it helps us in our gastric cancer portfolio, but additionally, it gives us an additional mechanism of action to try to target that very difficult pancreatic cancer indication, which I think is sometimes called the graveyard of cancer trials, because so many have failed. So I think you need to think about a cancer like that by saying, how do I actually create a portfolio of options? We are at relatively early stage of development, yeah, so things can fail along the way. How do I create a portfolio that increases my chances of success by having just different modalities targeting the same biomarker in question? So that's really the logic of having EvoPoint as a partner in this. And we're, as I said, extremely excited about this asset, because it seems to us as a very good asset with very promising data.
Absolutely, and actually logic was the word I was going to use. I was going to say that seems just so logical to be looking into that further. So we mentioned continuous innovation earlier, but continuous innovation can sometimes swing the pendulum the other way, so to speak, where there's too much innovation. That aside, which emerging therapy or technology do you think is being overhyped at the moment, and which is being underappreciated?
I think that is a question that's almost impossible to answer. And the reason I say that is that we don't know what we don't know. Science is about discovering what you don't know. And the minute you discover something new, it will change the direction of how you think and how you go about not only the treatment of a disease, but also the underlying mechanisms and targets and modalities that work or don't work. And we will have to feel our way forward. Yeah? So maybe gene therapy, the whole hope of replacing a gene, maybe at this point is something the industry is walking away from because it's been so difficult to overcome the hurdles. Maybe Astellas is the company that's actually going to get that done. We're continuing to invest in gene therapy, not in cancer, that would be way too complex at this point, but in rare diseases, which are single point mutations, which we can target today. We're equally investing in cell therapy for the same reason, that we believe that's a promising technology for the future. But if you ask me, how big is it really? I don't think we will know until we really explore the first steps of that potential. And just imagine that we would indeed be able to replace dead retina cells in a person, let's say with geographic atrophy, where those cells have died, and you can replace them and you can restore vision. And even if it's not complete vision, even if it's just the ability to see again, in rough contours, that would be a complete breakthrough. Yeah. But do we know that that's possible? We'll only know when we get there. We're working on it. We find the idea fascinating. We'll only know when we get there. I think the technologies that are more mature, if you want, more tried and true, we know exactly how to play with them, is the antibody technologies like Vyloi in gastric cancer as a monoclonal antibody, or the EvoPoint asset, which is an antibody with a linker and a drug attached to it, the so-called antibody drug conjugate, the ADCs. So those are modalities where I think we already have more experience, and where you have a clearer vision of the roadmap, than in the more nascent technologies that I mentioned earlier. And I think in between is the targeted protein degradation, that we're also one of the leading companies in. Imagine you have a target in a disease mechanism, and you can't bind to it. You just can't find an antibody or a molecule that really attaches to it. But imagine you could now degrade it. You could chop it into pieces. Yeah? That's what targeted protein degradation does. Yeah? So we're equally very excited about that. I would say that's probably a little bit in the middle between antibodies, more maturing technology, and gene and cell therapy, very nascent technology where we really don't know yet where it will lead us. So I tend to think in technological waves or generations of technology. And I think the art in a pharmaceutical company is to be able to play in these different generations in terms of your investment strategy, so that you can create innovations at different points in time that then sustain the company, and at the same time address the unmet medical needs that patients still suffer from today.
Very laudable, and my goodness, what a roadmap. I like this mindset of not knowing till you get there, though. So my final question, and that was a very good prelude to my final question, and I know it is still yet early at the ASCO conference that we are speaking, but in your opinion, what's the most promising research generally that you think will be presented at ASCO this year that could change oncological practice within the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, I feel a little bit put on the spot.
Sorry.
If I were to answer it directly. So let me answer it from an Astellas perspective.
Okay.
From an Astellas perspective, we are extremely proud to be able to present at ASCO 5-year follow-up data of our ARCHES trial in metastatic hormone-sensitive prostate cancer. And what you see in that 5-year data set is that over 5 years, we have a 66% survival rate of patients treated with Xtandi in combination with androgen deprivation therapy. Now, if you had told me or an oncologist 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that we would be at one point able to save 2/3 of cancer patients, prostate cancer patients with metastatic hormone-sensitive prostate cancer over the duration of 5 years, I think you would have gotten a very incredulous look at that time. And here we are. Here we are with a modality like Xtandi that has shown that now. And also at this Congress, there's an independent study called the ENZAMET study, which has done a similar analysis over 8 years. And they can show that 50% of the patients are still alive after 8 years. In cancer therapy, that is not something we were thinking of as recently as 10, 15 years ago, that people would be able to survive a cancer for that long a time. Yeah? That, I think, speaks to the breakthrough nature of the treatments that we are bringing to market. And I don't only want to speak to us for Astellas, I also want to speak for the industry as such. And I can only appeal to the environment from governments, from payers, from regulators, from providers, to continue to support us in that endeavor, because the innovations that we benefit from today were started 20 years ago in a lab somewhere. Equally, the innovations that we want to benefit from in 20 years are starting now in the labs, and they need the same support of patent protection, regulatory data protection, agencies which assess our data professionally, and then an environment that rewards innovation if we want to have innovation in the future. Nicola, we'll all be patients one day. I will be a patient and you will be a patient. And when we get to that point, we will want to say, what's the best treatment for me or for my loved one? And that innovation starts now. So let's support it.
A lovely and apt way to finish, Claus. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Nicola.